feel of what's going on, Mr. Preston, I'm gonna kind of let you explain everything to us, and if we have questions. Would you like a copy of the budget?
I got it.
You got one? Okay.
Yeah.
And, if we have any questions, if we get through with the section, if there's any questions up, we can either do it that way, we can save them to the end, or we just bust out and ask.
Whatever's your pleasure, we will work around it.
If we just, we probably need to do, I need probably to ask when I think about it, because if I don't, I'll forget.
Me too.
That's just what, we'll just play it by ear.
All right, sir.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay.
Let me tell Ms. Woodard, you'll reflect that Ms. Williams is not here because of an illness, and Mr. Murphy did not contact me, he may contact somebody, he may be late, but let it be reflected, those, there's only three of us here to do that for. Even though we can't decide. Okay.
You have a cover letter in your packet. There's a packet in front of you that contains several things, and I'll identify them as we go through it. But the cover letter just is basically an overview of what you have before you, what we're doing tonight. It's preliminary budget for the city of Chattahoochee 21-22 fiscal year. The budget as proposed to you this evening is a balanced budget. We looked at the revenues and the expenditures, and there's nothing coming out of reserves or anything like that we have to do. The total combined budget, general and utility fund is $8,625,195. Also attached in your information there is a updated personnel budget. Now that's not your current, because that reflects a 2% general salary increase for employees, and we put that in there in case you wanted to do that. You would know what the expense was, because it has the fringes, the columns goes out with the fringes, so you know the total cost. You may not want to do that, or you may want to do a 1 or 5, but right now there is a 2% included, which is reflected in your budget numbers. What we didn't do, rather than I talked about it, but we have several grant projects that are not reflected. I know in the past, sometimes we tried to anticipate what they were going to be, but it's very difficult to do, what you're going to get and what you're going to spend it on. So the several grants that we had, and there is several for this year coming up, the Resilient Communities Downtown Improvement, and matter of fact, they're coming. We've been through 2 rounds, and as I tell you, we're successful. We did the panel. We were successful on that. The staff person there told me they are recommending approval. That's the 2.1 million downtown improvement, but they're bringing a team to walk the town next Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're looking good on that one, but it's hard to include that in the budget. So if we get that and then we expend, of course, you would approve all expenditures, and then the city clerk could amend the budget once we knew what those actual expenditures were. So we would amend the budget, at a later date. But you have that one as well as the, I've already told you about the American Recovery Act funding, that commonly referred to as the COVID money. We know what our dollar amount is going to be, but the rules don't come out till August. And so we may include something before this budget is finalized, but right now it would be a shot in the dark. There is just a little in there for that, because I wanted to try to get as much as I could for lost revenue, so that we could add it to our fund, general fund. We are looking to retire that loan, so we'll have to have the cash on hand to retire that loan. But so a lot of what I'm hearing, we won't be able to use it all for that, so that's kind of an unknown. And then we have applied for a DEP revolving loan fund for the smart meters. We won't know about it as well until August. I asked for 90-10, guaranteed to be 80-20, but it just wouldn't be prudent to put it in at this time until we know that we've been approved, number one, and what the numbers are. You're also going to have the option, I do know this, to use that COVID money and just pay for the water meters. That water lines are going to be included. Any water infrastructure, water or sewer. So if we didn't want to go the DEP with the match route, we could just use some of that COVID money. It is an allowable expense to do them, but that's something we really need to move forward with.
Let me ask you this while we're thinking about it, and this may not be the right time. Let's say that it is 80-20. That's pretty much how it's going to be. The the savings that we'll make on using the smart meters, won't that cover the 20%?
Easily.
I thought that's what I remembered that it was.
And the last one I did a revolving loan, to fix the sewer plant. You know, we paid our part cash. We didn't do it, but they also offer you on the 20, on 10, whichever it winds up being, you know, they'll finance it for you over 10 or 20 years if you want to do that. So there's a number of options, but yes, our water usage is gonna go up, especially if you do them all. If you replace every meter in the city at one time, it's like the proposal I brought you before. You know, we were gonna do a loan, service a loan to increase water sales, because there's gonna be increased water sales and therefore sewer.
Well, it's not, it's gonna be metered correctly.
Yes, sir.
The amount of water going through the line is still the same, but it's going, but it's because the meter's old, it's not getting read correctly. So
Correct.
it's not, they're not actually using any more water.
Right.
It's going to be read, it's going to be.
You know, some people are gonna say though that, you know, my water bill went up, but you're right, the same amount of water is going through there, but those meters are dragging, you know, you got 50-year-old meters.
My house is 50 years old, my house is 40 years old.
The companies that manufacture them say that they're accurate for 5 years. If you buy a meter today, they start dragging, they wear, you know, we all know that, I mean,
I just want to make sure that.
but I just wanted to let you know that is not included in the budget. You have a number of ways to go, and we haven't been approved by DEP yet, but they will vote in August. Their board that makes the decisions anyway, and then, of course, the River Landing Phase 2, it's actually starting this fiscal year, so I'm not sure how we're gonna book those expenses this year, or if it goes over the next year, but those will be done as we amend the budget later, and of course, we'll do a FERDAP. The proposed budget, as I have proposed it for your consideration, does not include any property tax increases, utility increases of any kind, or any fees to our residents. And as I told you all a couple of meetings ago, I guess, or you had the information from the Florida Municipal Power Agency, that we're number 5 as far as the lowest rates in the state of Florida for municipal electrical. There's a couple of capital things. We're gonna have to do some radio issues when the new system, if the new system goes up, but, you know, we gotta spend a little dollars over at the PD, some equipment, and then the only really, I consider large, is, a new jetter for our water and sewer department. We gotta replace that jetter machine that unclogs the line. And what I propose on that would be to do because they're pretty expensive, you know, about 80 grand, but do a lease purchase where we can pay over 4 years on it is what I'm gonna recommend to you on that. But again, not just tonight. If you think about it tomorrow, go home tonight, or next week, or whatever. That's why we're having this workshop. Just please feel free to call me, shoot me an email. Anything that comes to mind. We'll start with the general fund, if that's all right with y'all. And the first page you have on there, page 1, is of course the revenue side of that fund. And off to the right, you'll see the far right column will reflect any increases or decreases. And in some instances where it needed to or substantial, there'll be verbiage to explain the differences. Not a lot jumps out, of course. Grant monies that we included last year, some of those go away, and then some new funds come on. Now your state revenues, gas taxes, and the communication taxes and all those don't come out until about the 15th of July. There won't be a lot of difference in them, but the Department of Revenue each year puts out what each governmental unit should put, you know, its estimates on the state side for what you should put there. So these will change some when you see the budget in September, but they won't be major differences. Or I would be shocked if there were from the state revenue estimates. You will see it. I put in 155,000 of the 760,000 or whatever on the American Rescue Plan. Again, it's kind of an unknown, so that's a fluid number, but I want to maximize what I can out of that money for revenue, to replace revenue losses and things.
Now, did you say that would be August?
The final rules will come out in August. So that number is just a low, you know, out of 700 something, surely that number we'll be able to do, but again, we'll know before you finalize the budget. The forestry fire grant went up a little, $2,500. And again, we'll finalize the state revenue ones and sales tax and, the BOCC fire. We don't have a new agreement from them, but it's been 31,000 for a long time. So we just utilize that number.
We have to use on the board of county commission, we have to wait till after that meeting in August before we can verify ours. Is that?
You know, you can't conflict with the BOCC or the school board.
You can't have it on the same date, sir, but you don't have to wait for them to have theirs for you to have yours.
So we've already been laying our dates out. The first thing you'll do, of course, is your proposed millage. You know, that's what the first step in the entire process. Then we'll have to do that around the 1st of August.
Between July 1st, and it's due back to the property appraiser by August 4th. So sometime in July.
And we'll get the certified tax roll from Dale, but that'll be the first step in the budget process, set the millage. And you can set it higher, you know, you can always go down, you can't go up once you set an intent on the millage. But these numbers, nothing big jumps out. Our senior citizen funding, you know, they did a 5% cut, so it went from 10 to 9,700, but nothing shocking on the income side. In all total, it actually went up by $72,000 in general fund. Any questions on revenue? All right, expenditures.
I do.
All right,
Hurricane fees, would that be on that? Are we still taking?
yes, it's in the utility fund.
Okay.
In the legislative line items, council members, nothing exciting there. And then, finance and administration, which is city hall, of course. Overall, and in each one of these, you'll see, we assumed on the health insurance, employee health insurance, we don't know, you know, it's always last minute, but what we did is assumed a 5% increase for the budgeting purposes. And when we get the actual rates for capital health plan, then we can firm that up. And as I said before, there's an assumption of a 2% increase for, employees in here. So it is 24,000 more than it was the current.
Retirement went up because of changes in the rules, or we got more employees now?
Retirement went up in this department mainly because of the senior management, the new city clerk, being a professional, you know, she's an accountant. In the Florida retirement system, she could senior management, which is a different rate, and they charge a little more. And it could have, I mean, I don't know if it was all related to that, but, I do know we have an increase in this department because of our new city clerk.
Like it was, the
Qualified.
amount that went up, but it didn't go up.
Yeah, yeah, but overall, that, the entire department is 24,900, but as you see the column, most of it is employee related, assuming the raise, the health insurance. Professional services, unless we hear otherwise from you, or the city attorney, we have put it back in. Legal counsel at the same number. Police department, there's a $27,000 increase in that department. Again, some of that is the employee health insurance. What else went up here?
Is that gonna include does that include the vacant position?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's all we have, one vacant. Is that right?
So, any questions on, please? Fire control went up by $300. And again, it's just, most of that, as you see, is in the top portion of it, it's related to employee type stuff. Payroll taxes, retirement, nothing big in the expense side of equipment or maintenance. Road streets, again, you see at the top part, the, additional expenses related to employee benefits, and again, the proposed increase. and the 5% assumed on capital health plan. Couple of line items were decreased, and we do that, when you see one decrease, what I do, and you have a copy of it tonight, we won't take the time to go through it, but I get them regular where I monitor the spending. Like at this point in the year, we should have, in the budget, be at 68% of expenditures. That far right column tells you what's up or what down. So sometimes I'll see trends where, like, it may be fuel or something, so, dang, we were a little high, budgeted a little high in that department. I'll cut it a little bit so that, you know, it more accurately reflects what I anticipate. A budget's never to the penny, of course, but, so sometimes you'll see those small decreases like that. Then your street paving loans there at the end.
Well,
But overall, it did go down to $23,761.
The contracted services, is that what we, agreement that we have with the county for use of their,
That's part of it. If we were to use a striper or just say something happened that we had to bring in some type of contract, we could handle something, that's the line item we would pay for those services. But it would include that county interlocal agreement, yes, sir. Good? Okay. Other transportation services, of course, is our shop. And it, went up by $200. And again, it's really based on the, employee cost. I did drop the uniforms by $100. But, slight increase there, about $209. That's a one-person department, of course, Jamie at the shop. Health services, that is the budget that we kind of keep for mosquito control, things of that. I hate to just, you know, although we don't budget out of it and run a truck anymore, we're not allowed to do that. The county has just been, I want to keep some money there in case we have to contract. You know, and I had $8,000 there this year. We didn't have to spend, but I just feel comfortable if we can leave that there in case we get into an emergency situation and we can't get the services we need. And then, of course, we have the animal control agreement with them, it's the $5,000. Human services, that's our senior, services. We like to keep some money in there for little repairs and things. Hopefully all that'll be good. And you do know the building's under construction now.
I haven't ridden by, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like,
they're wide open, so hopefully, they'll have it fixed up. It'll probably take them, 60, 90 days, but it'll be a real nice building. Seniors can, hopefully by that time, things be really getting back to normal.
You told me one time that the county had planned on having some health services down there as well. Do they have a contract with a
Yes.
physician already in place?
They've already contracted with a group, actually. There'll be a full array to include dental. You'll be able to get any number of services down there. Babies, I mean, it's gonna be good, I think, Judge.
That's good.
Same thing we knew we needed, talked about, but,
Yeah.
they're doing it, so that's wonderful. Chattanooga will still benefit.
yeah,
Parks and Rec. Had a little increase there.
yeah, how many employees is that for? Salary?
Well, let me tell you, I want to explain that. You'll see the $39,000 increase, but in the past, they didn't budget. You have other employees that help during the ball games, and there's actually one other one that helps clean the parks. But this will more accurately reflect, you're not spending any more money because it came out of the street. You were paying it either way, but I want to be able to accurately track and you be able to see what you're actually investing in recreation. You're actually spending. It's not cost you any money, it just got moved from streets so that we can track this and look back, somebody can look back 5 years from now and this is what you actually spent in Parks and Rec. We were kind of undervaluing it. Some of the expense was over in transportation, which, they work together a lot of times, but I wanted to more accurately reflect what you're spending in Parks and Rec.
So the salaries went up quite a bit.
because we added a person.
So how many people is under?
There's 3 in this budget
Three.
in Parks and Rec now.
If you look on the personnel budget, in your packet,
Mhm.
it tells you who's employed in what division.
And you have, you know, a copy of each department's breakdown of personnel with the associated costs in your packet. But that's why that one jumped, is because we're showing that other person. If you look at the line items for actual expenses, and now the utilities jumped, I had to put some in there, but that RV park light bill is paid, so, you know, we're back using some electricity down there.
Mhm.
I'm assuming it's most of that increase, so we bumped it up because as you rent the camper spots, you will use more.
But it's paid for when they leave, or before they camp, before they park down
Yeah, we charge them with that, yeah. And you're up to, you know, about $9,000 now, what we've taken in at the phase 1. So I think it's pretty good. I'm excited to get phase 2 in. It's gonna, which is what y'all knew this, because when I first come here, you know, it was one of the first things
Yeah.
you talked about, was get that thing up and going as an income generator. It's gonna do that.
Yeah, I think it's
there. It's
a lot,
a shame to not use it.
yeah.
It's,
I think the 4th of July, there's quite a few reservations already.
Yeah,
on
we
here.
packed on Memorial Day, so, and that's just with the first phase, so we get a second phase in, that will more than double our income on it, so I think it's progressing well.
and I think Billy's pretty good about, you had one fella come in there and rent some space for tent camping down there, when he goes down and checks later on that evening, he's got 4 buddies down there, and each of the 4 buddies has got a girlfriend, and they're all staying down there. He says,
And that's,
everybody's got to ante up with it.
that's one of the benefits of having a park host.
Right.
Yeah, it's, you know,
It's not-
lease, and staff can't be there 24/7, so, yep, it's working out well. Okay. No more questions on Parks and Rec? Then, of course,
Let me
you,
ask you, let me ask you, the maintenance of the building it went down. Why did it?
probably because of that clubhouse, you know, we had budgeted quite a bit last year, like 60 grand or something.
Oh, I was thinking about.
The RV park, are you looking at the last one, or?
No, when I said maintenance of the building on Parks and Rec, I was thinking about the, Oak Street building, the one I was thinking.
Well, it would include all expenses, but it includes the RV park, Oak Street, if we have to do a basketball goal on the other park, it's accumulation of several, Lincoln Drive. And then, of course, your fireworks are back in there.
Yay.
What's,
Okay.
okay,
On the rental for the leasing of the, RV, the clubhouse and the rec center. I was in a meeting, last week, and they were saying that the fees for renting it, say, the clubhouse down here was like $250. And it was, you know, the citizens were saying that was absolutely just too high, you know, and from my personal standpoint, I think that fee is too high also, because I think the facility should be there for people to utilize, and it seems like by the fee being as high as it is, it's going to deter people from actually using it, you know, and technically the facility belongs to the citizens of Chattahoochee, and $250, that's going to put I think it's going to put a dent in the amount of people that have opportunity to use it. So I would wish you at some point would entertain looking at those fees. I personally think they're too high. And it was in one of our meetings too, one of our Main Street meetings, some citizens were saying that they thought that was just absolutely too high, $250.
we just addressed the, rental,
Two or 3 minutes.
rental fees, you're not talking, and the $250, was that including, is that including the deposit as well, Robert, or is that? deposit?
No, that's the rental fee itself, but, you know, before Michael, your old rate was 200. You know, we did propose a small increase, and Oak Street as well, it was a small one there. But yes, that was included in those rates you approved, and the length of stay,
Yeah.
how long they could stay, the rates, those type things, you
We
know,
had visited that, and that was, we all felt like that was, I didn't have anybody at any of the meetings saying they thought that was too much.
Yeah, I don't think anybody be attend to me. I've been going to meetings, and I vaguely remember that also. But I'm just saying from a personal standpoint, you know, we want facilities and things that people will have an opportunity to use, and it won't be a burden for them to do it. And just because the fee was 200 and you go to 250, you know, the 200 might have been too high. I just really think facilities should be made available to the public as much as possible, because, you know, we put the bill. So I just like at some point, just entertain that or whatever, you know, because I personally think 250 is too much myself, you know, but that's just a public comment.
Sure.
All right, moving to utility fund. Again, on page 1, it's your revenues. Of course, your FEMA, what you got this past year. The remaining that we have coming from them is 280. We have recently signed the final agreement. There's some more, but that is the consultant money. And of course, I'm still trying to work out that Rostan. If you remember, y'all had contracted with Rostan Solutions the day after the hurricane, and then they didn't perform, and we've been back and forth for a while, but I think I have a settlement with them now. And, in all fairness, it was, you know, FEMA's going to pay their fees. That was their argument. Why do you care? But the bills were just frivolous, you know, for a lot of money, $200,000, whatever. Anyway, we worked it out now, and so hopefully we'll be able to do they call it Cat Z, Category Z. So hopefully that'll be closed. Now, of course, that won't produce any revenue on our side, but the 280 reflected here is money that we will get for our coffers.
Well, when do you think the Hurricane Michael field will be gone? When our
Whenever,
citizens,
well, it was set up to go in November of 22. November of 22. We have to resolve it by then, but as you know, we paid $4 million on it, but you still have $3 million remaining on that. So until you're in a position where you think you want to do that, it doesn't hurt your finances to the point you can't front grants and do some of the things we've been doing.
Well, and one thing that I've had people talk with me about, is they don't understand. When it first came out, they told us that we did not know when the FEMA money was going to become available. They speculated that it could be from 18 to 24 months, maybe up to 36. Well, a lot of people heard that it was 18 to 24, and they were, like everybody does, playing for the low side, and they're looking for, and I think I know I speak for myself, but maybe I don't want to talk for y'all, but I'd like to get the Hurricane Michael fee off as soon as we can without putting the city in any financial difficulty at all. So,
That'll be a decision you have to make. I mean, you could pay it off tomorrow if you chose to. You have, you know, approximately 4.7 million, but then you would be down to the city of having $1.7 million.
And if a hurricane comes, right, that can
we're right there.
And some of those are restricted funds as well. You know, some of those, 1.7 will be restricted fireman's fund money and things of that nature. So, yeah, you're nowhere near close, but, and yeah, I mean, you're not close to you paid $4 million out of it early. That's pretty good. And then you also made a decision, to cut the rate in half to give folks some relief. Had you not done that, we would get to the home plate quicker, you know what I mean? So it's really a balancing situation, and, yeah, we have some more monies coming, but in my mind, where I've always been, I could not come up here and in good conscience recommend it to you until we had $6 million. Because you would be paying $3 million over the loan, retiring that loan, and you would have $3 million total revenue. But, to me, that's my number to be where I could recommend it.
but I wanted to read, because I have people asking us,
Oh, yeah.
I get the most questions about that. And it's not that much, but I know to some people, they won't understand why it's still being charged.
So you still have a $3 million loan that we pay $35,000 a quarter in interest.
Yeah.
Every quarter.
I think the key to it is that people just don't know where we are with the debt and how much we owe. You know, the fee is still there. So at what point is the debt retired? And if people kind of had an idea about that, they would understand that, it's going to be 10, 12 more months or whatever. But So that's the key, it's just no knowledge about it, you know.
Well, I know for me personally, sometimes when you talk millions of dollars, it just really, it just kind of, your eyes sparkle, it kind of lays over together, but we're making headway on it. And had we not half what we were paying, we'd be
Yeah.
making headway faster, but we're
Yeah.
trying to,
You wanted to provide that relief to the citizen, and it did provide relief. And, don't forget, you did another revenue decrease when we did the new wholesale power agreement.
Yeah,
You know, the city could have just kept all that money. I mean, you provided that to the citizens as well, so really, they're probably sitting about where they were, even with the fee on them, where they were prior to Michael.
we just have to, refer everybody to.
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, no, I couldn't recommend it to you. Do you have the cash to pay it? You do, but you would cripple your operations and our ability. You see how we've had to front cash on these grants? To play the grant game, you've gotta have some money, because they don't give you a check. You go do all this and then we'll pay for it, when you submit invoices and a stack of paper like that. So we have to keep ourselves, if we wanna do things, we have to keep ourselves in a position that we can front. This one grant we just talked about, that's $2.1 million. And we'll probably be able to make some draws, but it's probably after you put out $800,000 to a contractor. Then you might get a draw for your cash back. Ultimately, they're gonna pay for everything, but that's over 2 years, so if this community wanna stay in a position to play the new game.
We just have to, be diligent, try to make sure that we can explain to them.
yeah, and keep them informed, because like you said, I mean, they think Hurricane Michael's has been 2 years, it's on our third year, and why are we still paying? I mean, but we still have blue tarps on these roofs. I mean, and FEMA's, I saw it.
And there's some cities who,
We're talking well.
and they don't know how they're ever gonna get rid of it. I mean, it's tough.
Lord, please don't let another one come. That's all.
No, we don't need that, but we're ready if we do. But that was a good point, Councilman Richardson, you made. What if, this September,
It's hurricane season.
and you had just paid that loan off, you'll be scrambling around trying to get another $5 million loan somewhere this fall, because, you know, so, we will make a recommendation to you, but we'll follow whatever directions we get. But for me to recommend that to you, we're just not there right now.
Okay.
Few little differences, electric sales, again, that comes from tracking actual revenues year to date. Nothing really exciting, it did go up by $98,000. Majority of that you will see is up in the electric sales and in the grant. The FEMA funding will be $280 this year, we know that's a good figure on the revenue side.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, I was sitting here thinking, let me jump back on Hurricane Michael recovery for 1 moment.
Okay.
How much revenue are we expecting from FEMA to finish? Are we expecting?
$280,000 is the remaining balance that we have coming from FEMA.
And that's not enough to pay off the loan. I just want to reflect that we're not getting enough money from FEMA to pay
Oh,
off.
no, you're never made whole by the storm, because number one,
Okay.
they only pay you, now, we've been begging the governor, you know, there's 12.5% that every community's on the hook for. They don't pay 100% to start with, and then they turn down a lot of what, you know, the claims we put in, let's say, on the electrical grid, we had $1.7 million we want to claim, we'll approve 1.4. There's nothing you can do about it, there's no appeal process, and but then out of all that, what your storm was about, as far as FEMA numbers, about a little over $2 million, say $2.2 million. Well, 12% of that is designed to come out of your pocket. That's a substantial amount of money. Now, we've asked, appeal to the governor to make us whole, and we're going to get it, you know, but, again, I don't want to reflect that until kind of the check's here. But I've been told we're going to get that 12%.
And see, that's another,
That's going to come from the state.
that was another misunderstanding that I know I had on some of it, that we were gonna be made whole by FEMA. They were gonna give us all the money.
No, I
And then it
see
came
that.
out that it was gonna be all, except the 12.5%, but it, once
So
again.
that's how I, yeah,
Oh, we'll get all the money back from FEMA. They never did hurt it except percentage.
It wasn't hurts any community, and it hit us pretty good. Of course, I came in after the fact. They had already looked at a lot of stuff, but if you have aged infrastructure, for instance, like when I used to do roads, okay, well, this bridge washed out, I need $1 million. And, well, they're gonna come look, they don't just take everything what you say, well,
They gonna prove it.
what year was it built? It was the guardrails that was on this crossing? Yeah, it was a good bridge.
It's a solid.
It was solid, this thing was solid, right, okay, and it'll cost $1 million to replace it, we'll give you 400,000. We ran into that with our sewer infrastructure here, which you have a lot of damage on the sewer system, as you know.
yes, God.
And, we went back and forth on that, the electric was pretty straightforward, you know, they didn't hit us too hard. But sewer and the lift station and all that, I mean, those people they're pretty knowledgeable about what they do. Fencing, picnic tables, I mean, I argued with them about that rail fencing down at the river. Picnic tables, things of that nature. And they're like, man, come on.
Yeah.
The walkway down there, we were offered $4,000.
Walkway,
All the
The
trade.
big,
the
you know,
trail,
we thought, these boards are rotten. I said, man, they weren't rotten until that tree fell through it. That tree created rot. You ain't, you know.
well, right now, then you, for $4,000, you might get 2 pieces of wood.
$4,000, just, I mean, this is just so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
For that walkway that we bid, and the lowest bid was $40,000, okay? We didn't do it, but that was the lowest bid I ever seen. We were offered $4,000, I think. So, you build that in, no, you're not, to answer your question, no, sir, you're not made whole. All right, the physical environment, that's the warehouse and all the bill paying for, utility and public works department. It is overall 36,000 more than it was this year. We did make an adjustment on that Hurricane Michael interest. What we had budgeted this year was just a tad high, so it was brought down. And again, you got some personnel related increases due to the health insurance and different, included 2%. And just, I haven't heard any comments on that. Is the council good with that? Want to leave that in? Anybody?
In the what part?
It's for employee increases. It's in every department we go through, you see it
Mhm.
reflected. And that's what you did last year, so it's just assumption, so the real number, to help us build a proposed budget.
If it's gonna keep us, my feeling is that it's gonna keep us good employees and we can give them a increase and we're gonna have good employees and they're gonna stay, then, in my opinion, I'm for it. Then hold on to good employees.
And, you know, within our pay scale compared to other governments and all that, just knowing that some of the numbers I know, I mean, yeah, we'd like to do more because you know what inflation's doing right now, the cost of everything. And that affects everybody across the board, the groceries and every gas, and just the cost of living, people living, so that's,
The 2% may not cover the insurance increase, you know, really.
I put that in there just so you would have a number, you know, it's what we've done that the last 2 years, so, but that's up to y'all. If you come out, it'll be different, but I just want to mention that again.
I have a question, like, for their employees, where would that be, like, for them to get extra training on their job? You know, like, how we have to do certain in-services and do things, where would that fall out under?
If, in this budget that we're actually talking about right now, for down at the warehouse, you know, because we have a, company that's probably under consultants or professional services,
That's what I was wondering.
but like, on gas and electric, we have quarterly training, we have a contract, you know, with companies that come in and do, like on the gas, it's federally required. But we have people come in and provide that training.
Well, okay, so they don't, like, our heads of our departments down there don't go off to trainings and,
No, when all this, the Florida League of Cities now that we're back with them, there's a great one they do annually. But due to COVID, they haven't been doing it. It's a one day, one night, it's not a long thing, it's not a week. They should go to that. It covers a lot of risk management, personnel issues, supervisory, and they alternate it. And the good year for us would be, they do it, like down towards Destin, then the next year it's over towards St. Augustine. But the Florida League of Cities puts it on and there's no charge. So you just have your transportation and room if you stay. But I would like for all of our department heads to attend. That was some of the best training and cheapest training that I ever received in my career.
Well, I just wanna make sure we have it budgeted, cause like, if you're at the head, I want our people up to date on the trainings that, I mean, because I know we learn stuff every day, and everything's changing every day.
It's changing.
And like in our water department and all that, and I want them to feel secure in their job with anything. 'Cause
And the
you know,
emphasis has been on those departments where we're lacking, would be a supervisor in the street department or recreation department. I don't think they've ever had any, HR, or, those, how to supervise people, how to communicate effectively, that kind of training.
Mhm.
I don't think they've had any of that.
And so I think that's important
It's very important,
to keep and maintain good employees, like you were saying.
very important.
Let me get y'all's opinion on something about, while we're talking about training. And instead of, we have people that go to training, instead of us giving them a per diem and a travel voucher, what do y'all think about requiring them to bring back receipts and what's reimbursing them for their receipts?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Is that making sense? I mean, in other words, if we have someone that's, let's say the gas and electric crew's going to Destin for that meeting you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Instead of us giving them X amount for 3 meals and a hotel room. They bring back their receipts for the hotel room and for their meals.
That's a bookkeeping issue, but if
Well, what if the person doesn't have the money, but they wanna go to the training?
our travel policy would have to be amended.
Which policy?
Ron just told, we have a travel policy that does the mileage and all up front. There's no, you have to do it that way, it states clearly.
If you have a travel policy, which we do in our personal handbook, you have to modify it to meet that.
But that's no big deal.
Okay, well, I didn't.
But you do have to look at, I may wanna go to this training, but I don't have the money to pay for my food and stuff. So then you got an employee that can't go because they don't have the money.
Good point,
That's true.
good point. They'd have to front their meals, and motel room, and gas.
Yeah,
You
so,
could, you could do that on an advanced basis, based on when they say they're going to leave and when they're supposed to come back. And then, once they come back, they fill out a final travel voucher, and it's settled up at that time. If they're due more money for meals, because they have to stay later, then you could modify, you could reimburse them for, you don't actually, under the state of Florida rules, there's certain dollar amounts you can set for the time that they're gone, but you don't reimburse an individual for their, expenditures. Under Florida law, you cannot, pay someone for the gas they put in their own personal vehicle, you must pay them the mileage rate.
So I wasn't aware of this. But you make a valid point, but I would think that our, if it was someone in a supervisory position, that they would have enough to do that. Because generally, your supervisory positions are not your entry levels.
right, I do understand that, but like I said, we don't know what's going on in anybody's house. I may appear to have money,
That's right.
but not have it, so have
I would
to
just-
take all that into account.
Yeah. Okay. And that really doesn't have anything to do with the budget, it just,
What do you have?
it ran through my face right there, and I just had to come out, so.
All right. Let's see, any questions on physical environment? Well, if not, we're going to electrical. Electrical is $58,400 more than it was last year. The majority of that is at $50,000 in the purchase of power. We've looked at the trends and estimated we're buying that much more power. Don't be alarmed. That's the outgoing side, but when you purchase power, guess what? You're selling power. So that's based on an increase in demand, usage here in the city. So it's a good thing we had to increase that, the purchasing power, and that's the majority of the 58,000. The other 8, again, you can see is employee-related health insurance and, retirement and so forth.
Robert, is solar power for some of our physical plants a viable option?
No, we've been working on, y'all had actually started it prior to storm, looking at solar for the sewer plant. There was a program DEP was pushing for that. And, no,
Just have enough open field.
yeah, it's a tough one. That's something you could do as a city, looking at it on a large scale, no. Your providers, which nobody really talks about it, and I mean, it's not a big issue here as it would be in larger cities where people are more concerned. But with your new agreement with Orlando Utilities Commission, they have a large renewable component.
Okay.
So a percent of what you're buying now is renewable energy, mostly solar, okay? 10%. Well, you're also a member of the DAM consortium, right? You get 35%, that's renewable. So the two together, the city of Chattahoochee is approaching 45% renewable energy. And, sometimes I just laugh when I get these trade journals or you see it on the news, and they're renewable 10% by this year, 20%. And I'm like, it's like fire departments to me when I hear Quincy's the only full-time fire department in the county. Well, nobody ever mentions, little Chattahoochee, we got a guy sleeping on there by the truck.
All time.
It's the same with renewables. I would put our renewable energy purchase up against anybody. I don't know anybody approaching 45% of their energy renewable.
Speaking of the fire department,
Mm-hmm.
did we put a proposed stipend for the fire department?
We
Is that
did,
in here?
and I failed to mention that when we go through there, but it was,
Okay.
because of, doing it out the dispatch money, it wasn't a noticeable difference in dollars, but Chief and I, been talking about it for some time, and I had to do a survey, and Steve's in different places, Robertsville, Havana, around, and, it's something we should have already done, should have done it last year's budget, brought it to you. But as you know, the difficulty in volunteers, not this year, but everywhere, the volunteer fire services, we thought it was a good idea to give that incentive because at least when that person gets out of bed and climbs in their vehicle to go to I-10 to a wreck, at least we bought the gas. Okay, we already asked them to drive their truck, burn their gas, get out of their bed, and we appreciate you.
That's right.
Thanks a lot. So what we kind of talked about and came up with for the first thing to bring you up, we didn't know how y'all were gonna react, and, like Steve's pays $250 a year. Lump sum. Chief thought it better, we do it per call, $10 per call, and
Would that even pay for that gas? Not to cut you off, Mr. President, but would that even pay for that gas, like? That don't even pay for that gas, like.
if they drove a scooter, it would.
Yeah, that's like, to me, and I'm just not throwing our money out there, but we need the fire department. We've had too many fires.
Mhm.
We don't have a big fire department. That's a low number. They're risking their lives on top of that.
We have eight on the roster, but 4 really respond to your calls. Will this incentive get the other 4 or
A
2 of
gallon
the
of
other
gas
4?
is $3, so they ain't going far.
Yeah.
So and this is my personal opinion, that number needs to go up some, at least $20.
Well,
I
love to hear you say that. Again, we didn't want to come up here and scare you all because it's new, number
I'm
one.
not scared, I'm scared of fires, but not paying people for
Okay.
their volunteering, they're putting their life on the line. I feel like gas is $3 a gallon. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with you.
and they gotta go I-10, if you're looking at I-10 or wherever on I-10, and we wanna maintain what we have, so you do have to pay people to, sometimes a little stipend will keep them there, and the others may get active.
I think they will, money talks.
Yeah,
Yeah, they won't just be guaranteed it, unlike you, I think if they go to the calls, there needs to be a certain,
and that's it's not just, we're
Well-
gonna give you $250, no.
What we're
When you go
proposing
to
is,
that call, I think you should get, that is my personal opinion.
you don't get your money till the end of the fiscal year, the reporting period, okay? And unless we can do it, because here's what we came up with, we thought was a good idea. You only get that if you participate in 25% of the cost. You know, once you, and we have about 100 calls a year, basically. 80 of them are out in the county, 20 of them are in the city. So, out of a year's time, if you go to 25 calls, no matter which 25 it is, but 25, you know, you're trying to participate. So and it encourages more participation. You know, I gotta get my 25 calls in a year's time. I better go to that one. I gotta get my 25. But that's what we bounced around. Chief would totally agree. He couldn't be here tonight. He's gonna be here tonight discussing, but he's obviously at work.
But I agree with her, $10 ain't very much. Not nowadays. And the wear and tear of a vehicle.
And then driving your own vehicle,
Mhm.
from gas, you gotta get gas to go there, so to me, $10 is just a low amount.
So, well, we can look to update if y'all are in agreement.
I'm not to argue with you when,
Excellent point. You can agree. So,
well, I guess, like you're saying, if it, we put ourselves in a position that we had to increase it because we had more firemen participating, that's a good thing to have.
Mhm.
If it up the increase of participation. I just don't want everybody to say, well, I'm going to the first 25, then I'm not going anymore for that.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll have that, but it's,
well, the more they go, the more money they get.
well,
But they gotta do 25, which would be a big help to our department. A huge help to our department, but, if I can find additional, I mean, if y'all say it's 20, it's 20, I mean, I might be 15 or 20, whatever, y'all, I just look out, it's,
we tracked it up. I mean, we,
I think 20. It's-
well, yeah, they still have to pay tax on it, right? Because it's counted as income for the firm.
It should be 1099 for them. It's not W-2 because they're not,
they're
we
not
can't
employed.
control, we don't tell them when to be here, when not to be here, so they're independent contractors, basically.
So we have two that are employees,
Let's do it.
you have to work,
Yeah, how will that work for the two that are
Bookkeeping.
employees?
you know, we,
It most likely will be added to the regular salaries. I'll have to check and see how it's being done now. Okay.
Why don't we
we'll make it happen.
20, okay?
Yeah, I mean, gas is $3. I went to buy a piece of plywood and it was $60.
Yeah.
And
Plywood.
it stayed at $3.
Well, that'd be good, they'd be glad to hear that. I think it's gonna help our department to have a viable operation over there going forward, because a few more of these people retire and move on that have been in service in these departments all over this county. You know, you lose a couple of key people here and there, you got a problem.
You lose a lot of knowledge.
You got a problem.
Cause I can remember as a child, there was a lot of volunteer firemen. Now,
Different mindset too.
Yeah.
you right there.
So I think you'll be making an investment in, you know, that you want. And when we do our, you know, they come in here and do that rating every 2 years on the insurance, that will help us. That will make a statement. All right. Any more questions on electric? Gas is pretty simple. It's a small department, and let's see, overall, it did go up by 23,000.
So am I correct to assume that we had to purchase more gas, so we'll be selling more gas?
If you,
Pretty
if we purchase them, what you don't want is when it's by price. You know, it goes up in price. That doesn't help you on the selling side. When it's volume, you love it. So, and I don't know, it's, you know, it went up 23,000, but if you'll look, we have to replace the main valve that's on the yard there by the warehouse out of the front.
Money well spent.
Joe can explain it better, but it was encased in concrete whenever 1,000 years ago or whatever. But we have a small leak down there. We went down to repair it. Actually brought in a consultant when we found what we found. And, that's a pretty substantial cost to rehabilitate that thing, but we gotta do it, you have no choice. So, we cut some costs in other line items there, you have a $23,000 increase in that total budget, but you see 35,000 increase in that capital outlay. But it is what it is, we gotta do it.
Maintenance, yeah.
But we've asked, could we do it October 1? We don't do it, they said that's fine. Public Service Commission comes and inspects our entire system every year.
Will the gas be suspended for that time while we're replacing the valve?
No, I wanna bypass it
On about-
with a tanker.
Okay.
There's a way you can bypass it while you make that repair,
Okay.
which makes it more expensive, but I think that's a prudent way to do it.
Yeah, we don't want to interrupt any circuits.
And have people, without a gas for an extended period, and then, as you know, when they dig down, it's pretty deep. There's always gonna be something unexpected, and people could wind up being out of gas for 2 days or 3 days, so we don't want that.
No, we don't want anybody that's frying chicken and cooking fish or.
That's right.
anything
So,
that's not-
our intent right now is to bypass that system during repairs, when there's no interruption in services. Solid waste, is what it is. Sewer, wastewater, actually, went down by $5,456. And that's even with, again, back to the personnel increases in insurance, but, yeah, nothing big there. We, actually got the thing pretty good shape, but you remember I told you about not the COVID, the David grant. We've been working on it for 2 years, but, the government moves slow, but we've got 700-something thousand, I'm expecting the contract to bring y'all any day, and we're gonna replace 4 of the lift stations. We're gonna put a new cat generator at the sewer plant, the backup generator, and then also one at the water plant. It's located at the warehouse, the well, so moving forward, you will have an automatic kick-on Caterpillar for your water and sewer. If God forbid, we do get hit in the future, you'll be running. But that, so we're not having to, you don't see any big investments in this department, it's due to that CDBG, it's a CDBG is what it is. But it was hurricane related, and we finally got approval on it, should have the contract for you soon. But that's gonna make a lot of repairs that you would be budgeting for with those lift stations. Can I take a moment?
Yeah.
I got bad news. You couldn't get here no earlier? They cut the stipend to $5. I didn't have no backup.
It is what it is.
And he's alive.
Y'all tell me.
We're gonna get $20 per call for that,
Over 25%.
not 25%.
That work for you?
That's fine.
Is that okay with y'all?
Mhm.
Is there anything else the fire department needs? Like, we need some training to get these people to help y'all?
Now we need somebody to go out there and say, hey, y'all need to come in and be a volunteer. Or, hey, y'all need to come up here and help with the shift. And that's the other thing that we need to discuss, I don't know if we discussed it or not.
So that'd be a bus day.
Okay.
So about the shift, yeah, that.
But it's $20?
Yes.
That's
Over 25%, like I
Over
said,
25%.
that was coming cheap. He thought that would be the way to do it, over 25% of the cost. I had to mess with you.
I always do.
But again, because of that, CDBG grant, we're absorbing, doing a lot of necessary repairs to the lift stations and all that you would typically be doing, but we're doing them through the CDBG, so it's not, you're not having to spend a bunch of money in your budget to do them. But you got a lot of motors and pumps, the control boxes, some of the actual control panels, I mean, they're old, they're shot. We replaced 2, so this will get you 4 more of them, and we picked the heaviest loaded lift station, so. If something happens in the future, I think you'll be in a lot better shape with the generators and the new lift station. Water combination services, that's, Joe and his guys. And the increase there is a $33,000 increase, but look just above that, that's, absorbing the $35,000 estimated on the jetter. And, like I told you before, I included, you have a personnel budget in there, it's back there somewhere. It should answer any questions on personnel, and again, that includes the aforementioned increase, but, you see anything jumps out, and I know that this is a lot at one time, but take your time, that's why we're starting this process early as we do each year, so there's plenty of time for questions, and, we'll be meeting again, discussing it. Then you'll have 2 public hearings in September. Also, I've tagged, it says, this is detailed versus budget report, that's the one I mentioned earlier, that's what was budgeted this year, and this is the total activity, budget remaining in money, and then that last column is percent remaining, and as I stated before, you can figure 8.3% per month is how I do it. So whatever month you've completed, times 8.3 is where you should be, and if it's not that or above, we like to be above remaining, so that at the end of the year, we haven't spent all our money. But it goes, if you got one that's low, and you do get them occasionally interdepartmental, like you might move office supply money to some other operating, but we don't mind as long as it's an internal budget, they're moving, because they're staying within budget. It's just they had something come up over here that costs a little more, but,
Quick question for you.
mhm.
I know we just went over this, but where is our money for donations at? What part of it?
It was on the last page in utilities or general.
General,
It was where the fireworks was.
yeah. 3,000. You see it on the back, last page?
Yeah, there's some in each budget, but, we have it. Of course, I know there's been a lot going on,
Yeah,
but
I'm just trying to find out, like, because to watch the budget too, when people ask for donations, we need to watch the budget, so I need to know what was budgeted for that.
you good with, is that okay? There's some in the other, but there's some in each budget.
Okay.
In each budget,
Yeah.
that's what was, we'll do it.
Find it on the report.
But you're talking about like when people come up here to ask for it, like that, would that be where it come from?
That was what that 3,000 was
Okay.
intended for.
Okay,
The other covers some things you have to do. One of them being like it's called donations, but you used to pay, the Gadsden County Development Council. You do more dues type
uh-huh,
thing. But the other was discretionary. But if it needs to be changed, I'll just do
so
that
that's
now.
the discretionary, that $3,000.
That's
okay.
totally discretionary.
There's 2,000 in the senior center, but
Yeah. Any questions?
No, like, there's on the personnel where the budget, like, it says on the sewer waste, it don't have any money there, why is that by somebody's name? You see it's got the little blank?
they're either part-time or
Okay.
on call.
Okay, I just didn't know,
Is that JP?
yeah,
Yeah, JP, we pay him 1 hour per day.
okay, I just didn't know, I wanted to make,
Yeah.
But we
he-
don't pay benefits on.
Yeah, no
Okay.
benefits. You know, he works at Gretna actually now. He's
okay.
a certified water plant operator,
Mhm.
and we pay JP an hour a day to do our paperwork.
So that's like the dispatchers, that's why they're like that, they're part-time.
Yeah, and they got, you never know how many hours or who's working, that kind of thing. It's just kind of a fund of money that we bill,
And you see
charge
like
them.
that, there's a lump sum for
Yes,
dispatch.
dispatchers, mhm.
We have to, I think we have to decide. I think each council member has to decide what standards they're going to ask the people that are asking for donations to be. If it's a organization that is, registered with the state of Florida, if it's an organization that's got a person that is in charge, do they rotate the people, or is it just a group of people that have got together to ask for the park be swept, of yard work instead of blood work,
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we have donation money, because when there's something going on at Terry's Elementary, I wanna make sure that we're able to donate to.
Okay, a few items, if no more questions, I just wanted to mention tonight while we're here, and, one is the Hardware Hut 10-year anniversary on June 18th, 10 a.m. The grocery store had problems with the scan reader, computer, whatever happened to all that, but anyway, tells me that, supposedly that's gonna be worked out tomorrow. And this information came this afternoon, his plan, a grand opening this Friday, won't be a ribbon cutting, that's gonna be scheduled at a later date, but hopefully have the store open on Friday. Moving forward to 4th of July, celebration at the river, folks coming together, and I think we're gonna have a good event down there, a really good event, fireworks show.
Do we have some people singing now, or did we?
Yeah, you're on at 3:30.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll get the times out to y'all.
please let me know. I'll be down there singing.
And everybody who's watching at home, and everybody y'all talk to, and spread the word, the boat ramp will be closed on Sunday, that day, July the 4th. We open on the Saturday and the Monday, but, unfortunately, it's too dangerous to have folks in and out of there on Sunday, so.
We're gonna have the sign posted like that to be.
But you'll still have one or two,
I know.
but, so that's why I wanted to be on Facebook, get a few more people hearing about it.
If we have something, like I say, if we have something posted and they're going down the record, I hope they won't be too offended about it.
Yeah, and the police will get down there, once the vendors start setting up and all, probably around 3 or something, then the police is gonna start. The big fear you have is somebody goes in there before daylight and launches, and the truck and trailer's over there, and they don't come back. We can keep them out later in the day, it's that when they just snuck in and launched it, but even with the sign there, that guy is hard to do something with.
Well, we just have to.
And just sit out there and watch fireworks on the boat. If you can't follow directions, that's what you do. Sorry.
And, we're gonna put Chief out there in a small rubber raft,
All right.
and he's gonna patrol
Just walk on the water, be loose.
Whoa, I hear you. Any more questions?
Chief, is there anything that you guys needed that's not in this budget?
I don't have it before me, but,
It's to the city manager.
right, I'll just run it by the city manager,
And again, this is a fluid document. This is just your first workshop. I've talked to you individually about some things you wanted to see, and, this is the first workshop as a whole group, and we'll talk about it many times. Nothing's set in stone, so don't, when you take it on and think about it and read it, something's gonna pop in there that you ask, and don't hesitate.
Knowing that we wanna move the city forward and our police are a main attraction in the city, we need to make sure that they have all the equipment that they need, because,
This one's
crazy
crazy.
Christmas times is over now, so we gotta move forward.
And I've intentionally stalled a little bit. I didn't even mention vehicles in it. I'm waiting honestly till August, till I see the final rules on the Recovery Act funding. It might be possible that, you could just outright purchase. Because in the draft rules, it mentions emergency services, things like that, but I wanna see the final rule. I don't wanna assume anything and make a purchase that then we don't get reimbursed for, so. We know we got the radios, we took care of the tasers this year. So I think the biggest thing is the vehicles and communications, as far as I know.
We had talked about, I think you met with the people, and that was for the chief guy here, Smart Cop, and I don't know how he feels about that, but, we talked about that.
I think we discussed.
We touched on it, there's gonna be some buzz worked out on the other end for us to do it, or you're gonna have to double your price, cause piggybacking the sheriff's server is how we looked at it before, which it can be done, but then I don't know how Chief feels about that.
There's issues with piggybacking on the sheriff department. It kind of takes the freedom of having your own dispatch, and that's the biggest issue. And it was problematic in Midway. And I mean, it sounds good, but and unfortunately, you don't get the same treatment. when you're not on the sheriff's department. And we wanna be able to keep our freedom and it'll be better for the citizens if we had our own dispatch.
Sounds good.
Which would require us, if we went to Smart Cop buying a server, additional 40,000 or something. So, not averse to looking at it, but again, kind of,
How would it benefit you guys?
Smart Cop is,
I mean, I know
It's-
for selling people.
oh, well, Smart Cop is it's more fluid, it has a lot more features, and it's more widespread throughout the county. So if we make if we go to a call for service or we interact with a certain person that another agency has interacted with, then it'll automatically alert them, and they say, okay, well, I see Chattahoochee's out with this guy. Let me put a note in and let them know what I did with the same guy 2 weeks ago. And as far as trespasses, like we get a trespass right now, and we have our own little filing system because we don't have Smart Cop. We just get a card, put it in our box, and if we remember that we had a trespass on this guy, that's out. But if not, we can miss him. Sheriff Department may run across the same guy, and it's not in Smart Cop, so the guy doesn't have a trespass, so he's still walking around trespassing. So, but if it's all in one system, everybody knows whether you've seen him before or you recognize him or not, he's gonna be dealt with.
but if the American Recovery Rescue monies would allow that purchase, it'd probably be wise to do it. You write a check for it. If we're gonna have to spend all these dollars on equipment, smart meters, which is a very good investment for the city, it makes sense, something like that, it's a one-time chance to do it. And unless we find out we gotta have our own server, that doubles the price. We were looking at around $40,000 and.
Now, I was thinking of some options and maybe surrounding agencies that may not want to piggyback off of the sheriff, and they want to use ours. Maybe they can chip in on our server.
Yeah, I would be.
Things
Is
like
that
that.
what Jackson County has?
Yeah.
Smart Cop? Or
I
what?
don't think they have smart
What's
cop,
that they have in Jackson County?
the sheriff's office.
Cause I know at Sneed's, their dispatch goes at a certain time, they don't have a dispatch anymore. And you call the sheriff's department, they don't even know what you're talking about. They're talking about, it's in your block, what block?
Yeah, I don't think they have,
No, that's not
that's,
smart.
It's
that's,
not Smart Cop, okay. Cause I know I did not like it when I had to call.
that's centralized dispatch. That's what he said he
Right,
doesn't
right.
recommend. That's what. you
Okay,
get.
cause
Right.
that's what they got, and that man's talking about what block you in, I said,
Right.
I'm not in a
That's
block.
your end result.
Exactly.
You call 911 from your house, you're
Yeah.
talking to someone in Quincy.
Yeah, see, I don't like that.
And a lot of times, call 911, and the sheriff's office, some of the help they have now, will call Chattahoochee and say, and transfer the call to you, okay, while we're dispatching up there. I need an ambulance. Well, then you gotta turn around and call the county back and tell them.
So you're
"Hey,
wasting
I
time.
need
Time,
an ambulance
exactly.
to
If that's my family member, I want an ambulance now, I don't want.
Right.
right,
Like
I mean,
okay.
it's 3 to 5 minutes trying to get somebody. And like the other night when I called the sheriff's office, I just finally had to hang up because they never did get nobody and call again. So,
Yeah, that's not.
And like I said, a lot of the veteran officers, we know that. So me personally, I just call the sheriff department first, and then I let our dispatch know if it's an emergency call. I call them first, and then I let our dispatch know what's going on, just to save time.
You get the ambulance coming.
Yeah, that's what I.
But so you see the importance, if we're gonna do that, which I was in favor of it, I like the smart cop system, but we're gonna need to best double the price of it and have our own service.
Have our own.
It's the best interest of
You
Chattahoochee.
came and did a presentation, so if you guys need to come back, so you guys can.
Now, Gretna might be interested in it too, because they're on the piggybacking.
Right.
Um,
And see, another thing with Gretna, me and Chief of Gretna, we talk often, and there's other little ins and outs to it. If, just say due to COVID, we might need to approve reports, or we need to do a UCR. They have to go, since we're piggybacking off of their server, we have to go to the sheriff department and sit in front of their computer.
oh, do your
Oh.
UCR,
Right,
oh.
No.
So if their facility's closed and you might need, so now I spoke to somebody there, I can't remember who, they said that they have this remote system now that can, you know, but it's just a lot of extra. I'm pretty sure there's some extra fees with that remote feature. So, you know, it's just a lot better. It's a lot better to have your own server, and it just cuts out a lot of issues.
What would be some examples of the other agencies that could use that besides the revenue?
I know.
That might partner with us.
I know that. Well, just unfortunately, Greensboro doesn't have anything. I would really.
Anybody who wanted to
I
go
would-
to Smart Cop or
right.
have Smart Cop, they have to be hooked to a server.
And I would say Havana, but I think Havana has the same thing that we have. I think they have eForce, just
Well,
like we
it's
do.
needs.
Now see Sneeds now. I have a Sneeds in maybe even Jackson County. Maybe we can
But
find
they
out.
have Smart Cop.
Right. So and
And
Smart
it's
Cop is you know, since I've started in law enforcement, it's been growing. I mean, FHP has it. So I mean, that's everybody's backup across statewide. So I mean, if we can be on the same page with Highway Patrol, that in itself is awesome because those
You
guys.
pull the car over, and if you're dealing with a mass shooter from Miami, the officer knows it out there side of that highway in the dark.
And that's, I want them safe, I want them to go home to their families.
Yeah.
If I want them locked up too, all the bad people locked up, but I want y'all to go home to your families.
But it's something we all gotta talk about and be willing to invest because you can't move the city forward with the same system that we have. It's not moving forward.
And it's getting slower and slower and slower. I'm telling you that right now.
So, but we'll know when that final rule comes out in August. Again, I'm thinking the same thing on the vehicles, the large ticket items over there. This might be a one-time chance to make those investments, just like the vehicles. If we get two fully rebuilt vehicles that you just have to invest in, I think we take that opportunity. And like on the smart meters, that's something that returns revenue too. But it's a little early. We're not quite at that point. In August,
The fire
maybe.
department have what they need, I want the police department have what they need, because I want us safe in the city, so.
Don't even talk about fire trucks. You're not over that.
And I think.
They ain't got some money yet?
No.
Okay, I just need some numbers, I'm out of school now, so just give me some numbers and I will call. I have no problem.
Brenda Holt,
Good.
Okay, I can see that.
I got a number right here.
Good, give it to me.
It's in the car.
Give
But
it to me.
anyway, yep, this is just the first step. Nothing's final here. We can change these numbers any way this council wants to. And again, we're gonna recommend some changes as we get additional information.
Yeah, when we find out what we can
The
get.
state revenue will be up, July 15th. There'll be obviously some changes. The Recovery Act funding, that's gonna be some changes. There's a number of things that are gonna force us to make, the insurance quote.
July, do we need 2 meetings in July, or
No,
was that August?
you're good in July and August. You're gonna have to have a special meeting at some point, but we have to pin that down when we get the county and school board dates, which we already have those, but for your public hearings.
Okay.
But you are gonna have to have a special meeting. But it would be in September, Rhonda, right?
Yes, well, we will have to have a meeting at some point prior to August 4th to determine our military. If, Mr. Summerford gets us our, certification before
The 6th, we could do it.
July 1st, we could do the DR 420 and figure out what our maximum military would be and what our rollback rate would be, and then that way at the July 6th meeting, you could make a determination at what military, and then there would not be another need for that. But if he doesn't get that out to us until
I don't,
late that day, it might not be possible to do it by the July meeting.
And then you would have to have a special meeting because your August meeting will be past the deadline by 4 days.
I don't remember us ever having anything except the rollback millage rate. I don't ever remember any talk about the maximum millage rate we could have.
Well, you're allowed, you have to set it so that he can print those trim notices that go out to everybody. You can have to say a millage rate. Now, you can always decrease it. You just can't increase it. Like, we couldn't set our millage rates less than 1 meal. You couldn't set that and then during the budget process in September say, no, we want to do 2 meals. You're allowed to decrease it, but you can't increase it.
I got you. So we can roll it back. I got you.
But I'm interested to see this year, I'm hoping our values, we were going the wrong way on values within the incorporated area. And I'm hoping this year we'll see a turnaround on that with the repairs and all that's been made. That would be a good thing if we start to see that trend, which you were already in that trend before the hurricane. Decrease in value, but that's just not good for the community. So if we, doesn't have to be a lot, but once our trend is increasing property values as a whole
Well,
in the
does it-
city, then we're growing.
Does it, rental property decrease our price, you know, like having a lot of rental property, it don't?
No, it's based on square footage
Okay.
and
It's worth what it's worth.
price sales values and all that, but, I'm hoping this year we actually see the turnaround, and then you're a growing city. That just adds some of the other things you're doing. You have a city, you're growing.
Sounds good.
All
Anything else? Sir, we haven't got time to talk about the donation for the
right.
arsenal.
You do need to talk about that.
We need to talk about that.
I'm sorry.
But
You can't vote on it.
No, we can't,
you
we
can
can't make a
discuss it,
decision.
yes, sir.
Yeah, we just have a personal conversation.
Have a conversation. on
Yes.
that. That was one of the things that we had talked about.
So,
And I apologize for not having my packet with me. That was the one that I was about, was the $100,000 sponsorship, what I thought about. Because I feel like the city needs to, not necessarily partner as a full-fledged go-out sponsor, but we do need, because there would be a lot of influx of people from the local areas, more so than it would be. I couldn't see myself going to, the Swanee River for this, if it was on the Swanee River. But I can see a lot of people that would go to the Swanee River for that, but with the Apalachicola River being as big as it is, I do think the city needs to be on board with a donation that's not necessarily sizable, but one that makes the statement that we're backing the.
I didn't, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't look at it, so, I wasn't even thinking about, my mind was budget, so.
Well, we can just,
But I'll look at it.
we need to come to consensus, and I wish Mr. Gunner was here, we maybe we can call him, but, I think that each council member could get their mind what they wanted to do, and we could let Mr. Preston know, that way we wouldn't have to have a.
No, but if someone has questions, wanna call me about it, yeah, we wouldn't want to, poll commissioners
Right.
for a vote or for their idea. I would be comfortable with that, but if anybody called me with questions about it, I think we could
We can
figure out where we are.
figure out what we're going to get a pretty good figure on what we need, where we can all be comfortable with the donation for that, if everybody wants to donate. I mean, everybody-
And we need to vote on that by the meeting, right?
It has to be a meeting, we can't do it.
No, I said we have to vote on it at the next meeting, I'm trying to remember the
You
date.
don't have to vote unless you receive a certain.
Cause we can authorize you to,
He is authorized up to a certain amount.
But if, I would be more comfortable at the $1,000 level, probably if you voted on it.
I mean, I think it would show, this is just me, I think it would show it's a unified effort by the council to make sure that we're putting some skin in the game as it were. It'll be a lot of skin, but we got something in that we're invested with, something that's promoting Chattahoochee. And we have talked at previous councils for years about promoting Chattahoochee in different areas, different ways. We have talked about it being more of a retirement type community. We talked about advertising, possibly in the AARP magazine or whatever, someplace to get people, it's kind of like invested in that to a point. And that may not be a good example, but we have to, my opinion, I don't want to go on. So we need to think about, we need to let them know, so. if we-
Yeah,
We have to vote, we need to do that.
We're gonna have to do it at our next meeting.
We need to give them time, you know. Don't wanna be we don't need to wag behind the tail, but we sure need to be where we can.
Yeah, so, they'll know how to proceed with their plans. And, okay.
If that answers that question, if we might have anything else. We'll stand